This is a dry media tumbler. Stop using this. This will kill you. Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce, and this is roughly 75 or so pounds of brass that I have now cleaned using my new steel media tumbler. Now I'm going to go over all the different methods I've ever used to clean my brass before reloading. Now this is the first big test of my wet media tumbler here, and it did a very, very good job. Now stay till the end of the video because I have a free option, a free way to clean your brass that's almost as good as this, or almost free. Let me put a caveat in there. It's almost free, much cheaper than the tumbler is. But in the past I've also used a dry media tumbler, which is the cheapest, lowest cost of entry, but also has some caveats with it. I've also used the Ultrasonic Cleaner right there. It also has some downsides to this. This, other than the initial cost, initial purchase price, is probably the best way to clean a massive amount of brass, which I have. I have seriously recorded over 200 gigabytes of video just to make this one reloading video. So if you've not hit that like button, hit it right now. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because I do a lot of videos on the ins and outs of reloading for cheap bastards like me. Before I go over the ins and outs of the Frankford Arsenal tumbler here, let's go down memory lane of how I've tumbled brass or cleaned brass in the past. Number one, of course, we've all used a dry media tumbler. Now the dry media tumbler here, it basically is filled with either crushed corn cob or crushed walnut shells and a little bit of brass cleaner. You put your brass in there, you turn it on, and it kind of vibrates and tumbles away and does a great job cleaning your brass. But the downside is that it could possibly kill you. The main health concern with dry tumblers is the fact that it releases lead particulate into the air. If you only use this outside or in a very well ventilated area and the ventilation goes outside, then all that lead particulate goes up in the air and then turns into stars for the night sky. Most of us old-time reloaders, we've turned these into powder coaters because you can just put your bullets in there and powder coat them with whatever Harbor Freight color you want. Moving on to the ultrasonic cleaner, a couple of issues here. Number one is that the capacity is not that good. You can't clean a ton of brass. You can't clean nearly as much brass as you can with these two with a single ultrasonic session. So using the ultrasonic is going to take you all day to clean the amount that the wet tumbler here does in about an hour. Also, if you leave the brass in the ultrasonic cleaner too long, it will start turning pink. Some people claim that that actually weakens the brass. Once the brass is starting to turn pink, it's become weakened in that state. I don't know. I'm not an expert in metallurgy science, but I've also been told that it's fine. It's just a discoloration on the surface. I have shot brass that have turned pink and it was fine. I never had any issues. And now we're at the Frankford Arsenal tumbler. There are many, many types of this. This is not the best one. This is not the cheapest one, although I think it is pretty close to being the cheapest one. But there are better options out there, especially for more money. Let's see, the Thumbler's Tumbler is by far the best, I think. It is the most leak-free option. It is the most powerful, and I think you can clean the most brass in one session with that as well. That is a hefty, hefty boy, and this is a plastic fantastic. Along with this tumbler, all you're going to need to clean the brass is about 5 pounds or so of stainless steel pins. You're going to want some Dawn liquid detergent and some lemon shine. This stuff is awesome. Just a little sprinkle of this. I'm going to go back and forth between here in the bunker and in the bathroom part of the bunker, back and forth showing you the ways that I clean this brass, and it worked really, really well. I highly recommend the transfer magnet from Frankford Arsenal, and that way it makes it a lot easier to sift out all these metal pins. And you just release it, and it drops them all into your bucket, or in my case, the Folgers can. A few tips and tricks about the Frankford Arsenal tumbler is number one, there's a large one and there's a smaller one. I think the smaller one is still for sale. Don't buy it. It is a piece of garbage. It was not lined on the inside. This has a rubber lining inside which facilitates the actual tumbling action. The smaller one does not. It's quite a bit cheaper, but it is worthless. Don't buy it. Also, a tip you'll find online is the fact that you need to put rubber bands around the drive wheels or this thing will slip. Now, that is true that this thing will slip on occasion if you don't have it set up correctly. When I was doing small batches, I only had this thing about half full of water, half full of pins and I don't know, a couple of handfuls of brass, and that was it. And this would slip, and I had to put some rubber bands on there. But if you're doing a full load like I was doing, like completely packed full of water and brass and 5 pounds of media, all it will do is break those rubber bands, and it will get wrapped around your axle and start overheating the thing. So you don't want that at all. So my recommendation is, if you're going to do a small load of brass for testing purposes, you still want to fill the whole thing with water, and you still want to use all 5 pounds of stainless steel media. And that will have you rocking and rolling without any fear of the rubber bands breaking and getting wrapped around the axles. Another real world tip here is to sort your brass. Sort your brass to the nth degree before you tumble it. I have this brass sorter here that I 3D printed out. I'll put the file down below if I can find it again. But this works really, really well, and it sorts out all the brass to different sizes, and then you still want to go ahead and sort it out between rifle and pistol and whatnot, because you're going to get a lot of 9mm and 223 in the same bucket. You do not want to tumble those together, because this will happen, unfortunately. And that is where 2 9mm have gotten lodged over a 223 or 5.56 case. I'm going to have to take these apart and retumble them or clean them out themselves. And there's still water in here, and there's still pins in here and everything. So what is, yep. Well, that's a 30 caliber carbine. So make sure you're tumbling the same caliber cases, because they will nest together and just cause all kind of havoc later on. And now my almost free way to clean your brass, and then we'll finish up with my final assessment of the Frankford Arsenal. So how do you clean your brass almost for free? Step one is to grab a container that has a lid on it that you can shake pretty vigorously, but still is a decent size, but not too big. This happens to be a 26-ounce version, which is perfect for me because I can grab both sides and make sure I got thumbs on the lid, so I don't have any fear of the lid coming off while I'm shaking the bejesus out of it. You're basically going to put some water in there, put your dirty brass in there, put your Dawn dishwashing liquid, some lemon shine, and maybe if you're using some very, very dirty brass, if you got some very dirty brass to clean up, then go ahead and grab yourself like a pound of the stainless steel media. Toss all in there and just shake it. In about 5 minutes, you're gonna have brass as clean as this tumbler here, because slowly tumbling is one thing, but shaking it like that will really, really clean that brass quickly. So 5 minutes is about all you need. Of course, you're also only doing a couple of handfuls of brass at most. And now my final assessment of the Frankford Arsenal stainless steel brass tumbler. And that is basically, it works great. It works great, but there are some issues involved with it. Number one is it's not free. It's actually quite expensive for what you're going to be doing with it. It's cleaning brass. But when it comes down to it though, if you need something this heavy duty, then this is basically the cheapest option you can get for the most part. Everything else is going to be more expensive. And with it being one of the cheapest options on the market, it has another issue involved with it, and that is leaking. It does leak if you're not careful with it. Or actually, no, you got to be, if you're careful with it, it will leak. You've got to really tighten these suckers down to make a tight fit. I ended up at one point using the strap wrench. Now, cleaning the surfaces of the gasket material did help quite a bit, but on occasion, it still would leak a little bit. So make sure you're not going to be using this on carpet or any kind of wood or any kind of flooring that you care about. This is a concrete only style option here. In a future video, I will be testing this out on suppressor parts, because I have been told that this is the best way to clean the inners, the guts of a 22 suppressor. And I have several 22 suppressors, and some of them are very, very dirty. But that will be a future video, so hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to be notified of that one. Almost forgot, this is not a sponsored video. I paid for this with my own money to see if it works, and it does. If you need a lot of brass cleaned at once, this is the way to do it. If you don't, I would go with the free option, because that will work just as well, but much smaller batches and take a lot more time. As always, you guys have a great day. See ya.